Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, so we can hear you.
Okay, right. I don't think we went through this section. If we have, just let me know. So we will do questions from this section. Question number 1. Controls provide assurance to management that desired actions will be accomplished when objectives are established in writing. And yeah, so what a control does basically is you have to first have a benchmark or a standard. You have to adopt the standard and say this is how it should happen. And then you check, you measure the actual, you compare the standard with the actual. It's like a budget versus actual performance. And then note the deviation or the variation. And then you take corrective action. So that's what a control does. If you go down, if you look at the answer, you establish the standard. That's step 1. Then you measure performance against the standard. You measure the performance. Then you analyze the deviation or determine the deviation. Then you take corrective action. And after you take corrective action, also sometimes you may have to amend the standard itself. So those are the elements of control: setting the standard, measuring, analyzing deviations, taking corrective action, and re-looking at the standard itself for the target. Right. Question number 2. Question number 2. This is about cost-benefit analysis of a control, because at the end of the day, when you implement a control, the cost of the control should be less than the benefit should be more. The cost of the control cannot be more than the benefit. Now here, if you look, 60% of 3 million, 60% of 3 million is the cost of sales. 60% of 3 million, you have 3 million. If 40% is the GP, 60% is the cost of sales or the purchasing cost, taking it very simplistically. So 60% of 3 million. Then you have, let's say, X. That X you multiply by 1.5%. You can bring the loss from 2 to 0.5 to 0.5. That means the loss that you can save is 1.5. So here, if you look at it here, 3 million into 60% is this little bit. Then that you multiply it by the saving, 1.5%. That gives you 27,000. So you can save 27,000, but it will cost you to implement the control 35,000. So the control is not recommended because the cost, certain controls cost 35,000, but to see the saving is only 27,000. The cost of the control is more than the saving, so then you don't implement the control. Can you look at question number 3? Question number 3. A is wrong. No, planning looks to the future could be right. Controlling is concerned with the past. No, controlling is always future. No, the control we control the future. No, to the greatest extent. Planning and controlling are completely independent. No, planning and controlling are related. No. Controlling cannot operate effectively without tools provided by planning. Yes, so that makes sense, no? For you to control, you have to plan. Right? If you do not plan, what are you going to control? Which of the following best defines control? Control is the result of proper planning, organizing, and directing by management. So management control, no? Management controls by planning, by organizing, by controlling, directing. Those are all part of the management control process. You have to plan, you have to organize, you have to direct. The control is any action taken by the management, the board, or other parties to manage risk and increase the likelihood of achieving objectives and goals. Thus, control is a result of proper planning, organizing, and directing by management. Question number 5. Looks like B, no? Interluders do not design. Nah? See, you have interluders designing. Yeah. Yes, so it looks like B. Yeah. Some control procedures may be designed from the bottom up, but the concept of control flows from management and the board down through the organization. Yeah, so the bottom up, but then top down only the culture has to be created at the control environment. So it's a top down process when it comes to implementation. Generally, we don't give these questions offline. We kind of have a database questions. According to the IIA glossary appended to the standards, which of the following are most directly designed to ensure that risks are contained? What do you think is the answer? Which of the following are most directly designed? Directly. Control processes, no? Correct. Yeah. Control processes are the policies, procedures, and activities that are part of a control frame designed to ensure that risks are contained within risk tolerances established by the risk management process. Look at the definition of governance. Governance is a combination of processes and structures. Can you see the word structures is there? Implemented by the board. You have sub-audit committee, you have the structures, IT steering committee, nominations committee structures and processes. Implemented by the board. Can you see governance is implemented by the board? To inform, direct, manage, monitor activities of the organization. Which of the following is not implied by the definition of control? Measurement of progress towards goals is done. Uncovering deviations is done. Assignment of responsibility for deviation. Indication of the need for corrective action. So what is the answer there? Question number 8. Yeah, looks like C is wrong. No? Yeah. The actions taken to manage risk and increase the likelihood that objectives will be achieved is called what? Control. No? C. Yeah. Compliance is what? Adherence to policies, plans, laws, regulations, contracts, or the requirements. Classifying controls. Controls that are designed to provide management with assurance of the realization of specified minimum gross margins on sales are
with assurance of realization of specified minimum gross margin of sales.
controls that are designed to provide management with assurance of the realization of specified minimum gross margins. It's like giving a GP margin. If you give a GP margin, what sort of a control? If you say achieved GP margin,
Output.
or does it direct? It's not preventive, it's not detective. It's ARD, no? The objective of directive controls is to cause or encourage desirable events. You are directing behavior in a certain way. So you are right. Output controls relate to the accuracy and information processed by system. So when you do application control reviews, that is an IS audit, you have IT general controls review and IT application controls review. And then in IT application controls review, you have input controls, processing controls, and output controls. This is more related to information systems, where you look at whether the reports that are generated are in the proper format, whether they capture the data properly from the tables, are extracted and put into those reports, the accuracy of those reports, right? Question number 11. So someone gets all the checks to a company, customers pay, checks come by post. So when the checks come, let's say the post room, the mail room lists all the checks that are coming in, gives it to the cashier. Cashier then raises the receipts. So what sort of a control is it? Preventive. Looks like preventive, no? You prepare a list and give, yeah, preventive. If you like, you read the answer. Corrective controls remedy an error. Detective controls detect like a bank rec or a cash account. Directive control causes or encourages a desirable event. If you like, read the answer to A. Question number 12. The directive control, monthly bank reconciliations, detective, dual signatures, preventive. Recording every transaction on the day it occurs. Requiring all members of the internal directory to be CIAs. Not A and B, no? Is it D? Yeah. Recording every transaction on the day it occurs is a preventive control. The control is designed to deter an undesirable event. This is interesting. Question number 13. is about feed forward, feedback controls. Implementation control, we haven't heard of anything like that. When an organization has policies, procedures, they basically tell the staff this is the way to carry out your activities and tasks. These are the internal controls you have to perform. So that's a feed forward control. Feed forward controls are like controls that prevent. They are more like preventive controls. They tell people how to do things, right? So it's a feed forward. So they are preventive controls. Training staff is also a preventive control. Question number 14. A. I think it looks like A, you know. You can buy only from registered suppliers. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Question number 15. Feedback.
I can't hear you properly. No, not yet, sir. Lagging. Still not. Not yet. Not yet. Still lagging, sir. Still not clear, sir.
Okay, I'll log off and log in. Nah? Give me a second.
Now,
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
yes.
It's fine, sir.
Okay. Got it. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. Huh? So here again, it looks like D. Yeah. Variance analysis is like a feedback. You compare standard with the actual and you do a variance. And you give feedback. This one, check number 16. So this looks like D again, no, giving a head start, saying you need so much of cash on such and such a date. It's a feed forward control. Concurrent controls, while the activity is happening, you are giving feedback. It's like in a apparel company, in the line itself, when all the girls are showing the clothes, as they are showing it, you're giving them feedback. You don't wait till they finish showing the garment. As they are showing, you give the feedback, so it's corrected more or less as the process is going. It's a concurrent control. This also looks like feed. A firm not only inspects finished goods. Once it's prepared, once it's manufactured, then you inspect the goods. That looks more like feedback to me. But also monitors product returns and customer complaints. Yeah, it's also feedback. Once the product is produced and finished, you do a QA, quality assurance check. It's too late. Use of financial statement analysis. All examples of feedback. No? Performance appraisal of a staff member. Once the performance is done, you check the performance. So these are all similar. Out of the controls that are often difficult to evaluate because of the lack of criteria standards. What do you think is the answer here? Question number 20. Hmm. Controls that are often difficult for internal auditors to evaluate because of the lack of criteria or standards. Hmm.
Operating
Operating. Yes. Operating controls, very difficult. Control standard for security, for example, are less easily developed than for output power of a machine. Yeah. This is interesting. When a copy of the sales invoice is not received by an organization's shipping department, an employee requests a document from the proper authority. This process is when a copy of the sales invoice is not received by an organization's shipping department. So when it's invoice, it has to be shipped, so copy doesn't come. Then an employee requests the document from the. So when you request, it becomes more of an active thing. No? You request, is it active? Is it active detective then? Yes, when shipping documents are not received in the shipping department. Can you read that? The clerk should attempt to obtain the proper documentation from the originating organization. This type of control is detective because it detects and attempts to correct an undesirable event that has occurred. So they are told to ship something, but the invoice is not there. So you call and get the stuff. That will help to see whether you're shipping something which is invoiced to a client. Which of the following is not a type of control? Reactive, no? B. Reactive is not a control. Now look at the definitions of preventive control, detective control, and directive control. Can you just look at that definition? All right, let's go to the next one. Which of the following is a feedback control? Inspection of completed goods. Close supervision of production line workers is more of a concurrent control. Measuring performance against standard is also in a sense, feedback. Sorry, measuring performance against standard. You measure, then you compare. Doing a comparison is feedback. You see the deviation. Feedback controls obtain information about completed activities. The activity has happened. Let's move into flowcharts and process mapping. Can you go through this question? Which of the following tools would best give a graphical representation of a sequence of activities? So we know that it's a flowchart. It's a flowchart. Graphical representation of a sequence of activities that we all know. Now I want you to read this. Read the answers. Can you just read the answers? Take a minute and read the answers. Normal sequence of documents and operations on a well-prepared systems flowchart. Top to bottom and left to right. Systems flowchart. Right. So you have horizontal flowcharts and vertical flowcharts. Right. So generally everything goes from top to bottom, left to right. Of the following, which is the most efficient source for an auditor to use to evaluate a company's overall control system? Yeah, control flow charting. So flow chart, it's still a flow chart, but you have the word control in front. Of course, we know when we draw flow charts anyway, all the key controls must be mapped, must be in the flow chart itself. So look for the word flow chart, because the purpose of a flow chart is to study the controls and whether they are sufficient or not. Not just to document the process. Control evaluations, the main document that is drawn up is the flowchart. The diamond-shaped symbol. Huh? It's like one triangle and another triangle at the bottom, two triangles. Diamond is a decision point, no? It's a decision point that you have to know. Hmm. Can you see this on the screen? Now, this is a histogram. Can you see histogram? Yeah, histogram. Anyway, these are horizontal flowcharts. I hope you can see it. In a horizontal flowchart, what you remember is at the top you have the different divisions. You have the names of the different divisions. So it's like columns. You see columns and you see the chart will move from left to right, but it will cross certain columns, certain divisions. So if you see a flow chart with divisions marked at the top, like finance division, procurement division, HR, inventory division, receiving division, then you're looking at a horizontal flow chart. Right? Then you have the vertical flow chart is top to bottom. like this. Vertical flow chart. Top to bottom you see, and you look at the flow chart symbols, right? Yeah, you have all these different symbols. Here is the diamond. Can you see at the bottom? On the right side, diamond here. Decision. Here, decision. This is the diamond. Process. Start, end. So these symbols are in your handout. Please go through them. That's important. Which method of evaluating internal controls during the preliminary survey? Preliminary survey, they say before you start your fieldwork proper in the internal audit, you must do this preliminary survey where you go and meet people, you go through the SOPs, you flowchart the business, you complete internal control checklists. That's called the preliminary survey. You review past internal audit reports, you study about the industry changes taking place. Then after you finish your preliminary survey, you have to start now doing the control testing and the detailed substantive testing, right? Which method of evaluating internal controls during the preliminary survey provides the internal auditor with the best visual grasp of a system and a means for analyzing complex operations? Visual flow charting. There's no question about it. Flow charting. Step-by-step progression of transactions, from where it starts, where it ends, who prepares the document, who authorizes the document, the flow, the storage, which it's a hard disk or a manual file, right? The idea is to identify the strength and weaknesses of internal controls. Can you go through question number 30? Internal auditors are often flowchart a control system and reference the flowchart narrative descriptions of certain activities. This is an appropriate procedure to gain the understand necessary to test the effectiveness of controls. Yes, before you start testing effectiveness of controls, the controls actually, for example, when you're studying the payment process, they might say the payment has to be approved by the finance director. So that understanding whether the payment voucher needs to be approved by the finance director, you only get through flow charting. You identify what are the controls that are there. Now, based on that understanding only, you go to the next step of checking a few payment vouchers to see your sample tests, to see whether that control is operating effectively or not. So if you check 5 vouchers and in all 5 finance director has signed, then that control is operating effectively. So to test the controls, test the effectiveness of the system or the controls, as they say, you have to flowchart and find out what controls need to be there. Question number 31. Internal auditor develops a flowchart primarily to do what? Analyze the system and identify internal controls. Is that it? Yeah, now this is the, you might get the question here. Can you see this? A box like this, you might get. This figure shows how the figures are not here. No? The figures are question number 35. Wait, hold on. The questions are not here. This is a data flow diagram. And this diagram, it's a data flow diagram. It's not a flow chart. It shows how the data moves in a system. It doesn't show who is doing what. No. No responsibilities are shown. Can you see? Who is raising, who is approving, nothing. It just shows the flow of data through a system and where it is stored, where the data is picked up from. An internalizer reviews and adapts the system's flowchart to understand the flow of information in the processing of cash receipts. Which of the following statements is true regarding the use of such flowcharts? The flowcharts. Edit test. No, flowcharts don't show edit tests. Are generally kept up to date for system changes. No, flowcharts are generally you're supposed to keep it up to date. Now, in internalizer users, flowcharts are a good guide to potential segregation of duties. Yes. It shows manual processing and computer processing both in a flowchart. Both, if you have a purchase order, placing of a purchase order, even if it's a manual PO or a system PO, both are shown in the flowchart. It's not only the automated stuff that are shown. Right. Question number 38. The data flow diagrams. Graphically, you show how data flows and how data gets transformed through a system. So data flow diagram. Another word for horizontal flow chart is systems flow chart. Another word for vertical flow chart is program flow chart. Horizontal is system. How you remember that is HS. When you import stuff into the country, every item has HS code. HS code. People who are handling customs, importing stuff, they know. Which of the following is a true statement comparing a horizontal flow chart with a vertical flow chart? What is true about a horizontal flow chart? What do you think is the answer to this question number 40? Horizontal flow chart shows the departments, the different departments involved in activity. Here's an answer. Answer B. B looks correct. Yes, look at this. Horizontal flow chart depicts the functions or departments involved in a process from left to right. A horizontal flow chart is usually shorter. Space for written descriptions is not usually provided. So apparently written descriptions are provided more in vertical flow charts. The horizontal flow chart is shorter, less written descriptions or no written descriptions. What is symbol X? It's a document, no? Error report. An error report. It comes out of this process called validation of payroll data, something that comes out of it. Payroll data and error report. Those are a little complicated. Symbol X is a document that is hard copy output of the validation routine. The time card data, the validated data, and the errors are recorded on magnetic disk after the validation process. Thus, either an error report or the valid time card information is represented by. Okay. Right, the output. Be complicated. Counting cycle. Counting controls. Can you go through question number 43?
Your voice is lagging. Can't hear you properly. No, sir. Still.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
No?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, so single employee carrying out a fraud, you can detect it. But manager, even if it's a single manager, it's difficult to detect. There is management override. No? So a proper internal control system is designed in a way where a single employee carries out a fraud, it will be detected fast. Group of employees, group of employees will be next. Single manager might be even after that, and then group of managers is the most difficult. Very difficult when groups of managers are involved in fraud, right? Can you look at question number 46? Question number 46.
Answer D.
What's the answer for this? Mhm. Human resources adds employees to the employee master file. Payroll processors. Paychecks are automatically deposited in the bank account. So C looks like the best. No? Basically, HR has access to the employee master file where they add employees, add the basic salaries. Payroll people have access right not to add new employees or delete, not to change basic salaries, but maybe add variables like overtime, mobile phone, if anything variable on a monthly basis, they may add that. And once they process the payroll, the disbursement of the check happens in a separate way. So they inform back again to somebody else, may finance may process the disbursements, the total. Text files may be sent to the bank, right? Question number 48. Upon receipt of purchased goods, receiving department personnel match the quantity received with the packing slip quantity and mark the retail price on the goods based on a master price list. The packing slip is then forwarded to inventory control and goods are automatically moved to the retail sales area. The most significant control strength this activity is what? Is it this, matching the quantities? Using a master price list for marking the sales price. Okay. Okay. So matching quantity received, that is the counting the number of goods received physically, and looking again, checking it with the packing slip. Packing slip is also given by the person who delivers the quantities from supplier. So that would, you can check against the purchase order, then at least you can check whether what was ordered is what was actually delivered. Using a master price list for marking the sales price ensures that the correct retail price is marked. Okay. So you have to think like that. Very, very crucial. A lot of questions like that. You have to, think and write. You look at this one, 51. One characteristic of an effective internal control structure is the proper segregation of duties, the combination of responsibility that would not be considered a violation of segregation of duties. Signing of checks and custody of blank payroll checks. No, that should be segregated. Preparation of checks and distribution, that also should be ideally segregated between two people, one who prepares the paychecks and one who distributes. Approval of time cards, preparation of paycheck. Okay, timekeeping and preparation of payroll journal entries. That is also separate, no? So what do you think is the answer? Can one of you tell me? Not signing of paychecks is one person. Custody is the same person signs the paychecks and is the custodian of, authorizes the paycheck and is the custodian of blank checks. So that should not be the same person. The blank check should be with someone, then another person, that person can write the check. The signing has to be done by another person. So it has to be done by A and B, but A can't sign as well as keep the blank checks. That's wrong. Right? That should not be allowed. Preparation of paychecks and distribution is also a problem. If you prepare the paycheck, you must not distribute it, you must give someone else to distribute it to the employee. It's either C or D. It's D. Combine the timekeeping function and the preparation of journal entries would not be improper because employee has no access to assets or employees' records in the human resource department. Yeah. So I just thought. Approval of time cards and preparation of paychecks can be a little tricky. But timekeeping, that is also not the best answer. Right? Timekeeping is the time sheets, no? Record keeping and preparation of payroll journal entries. Yeah, as long as it's not preparation of the payroll. Preparation of the payroll was there, then we should prepare payroll journal entries at the end. Right? Hmm. 52, question number 52. Now, if you just pause for a moment and think, you are answering questions now for a little over an hour. You have done only about 40 questions. Now imagine you have to do another 60 more. You have about 2 hours, 2.5 hours for 60 questions. So it's another 60 more. So it's a lot of work, a lot of strain. So mentally you have to be strong. Doing so many questions. An internal auditor noted that the accounts receivable department is separate from other accounting activities. Credit is approved by a separate credit department. Control accounts and subsidiary ledgers are balanced monthly. Similarly, accounts are aged monthly. The accounts receivable manager writes off delinquent accounts after 1 year. Or soon, if a bankruptcy or the unusual, the accounts receivable manager writes off delinquent accounts. That's wrong. Which the following areas could be viewed as internal control? We write off of delinquent accounts. Yeah. Accounts receivable manager should not be writing off delinquent accounts after 1 year or sooner. It is completely wrong. If I'm the person who is following up on debtors, if I can write off, I might even collect and write off. It's very wrong. Question number 54. Which of the following describes the most effective preventive control to ensure proper handling of cash receipt transactions? Preventive control. Bank reconciliations are detective. One employee should pre-number receipts. Yeah, what we talked about earlier. No? Pre-numbered receipts for all cash collections. Another employee reconciles the daily total to pre-numbered receipts. So that seems one employee. One employee pre-numbered receipts for all cash collected. Another employee reconciles the daily total of pre-numbered to the bank deposits. Okay, so what they are saying is they have implemented segregation of duties there. That's the key message here. In point B. Two people are there. One is issuing pre-numbered receipts, other one reconciling. So that segregation of duties is a very important preventive control. That's the idea there. You might think that is also second person is there to detect the fraud when he or she reconciles. But the main point there is segregation of duty. That is why it describes the most effective preventive control. Segregation of duty. That is the point there. Question number 57. Intelligence recognizes that certain limitations are inherent in any system of internal control. There are inherent limitations, no? Which of the following scenarios is the result of an inherent limitation of internal control? So read the answer, second answer. How inherent limitations come about. So A, what they are saying is the controller performs both. Therefore, there is a lack of segregation of duty. So it's not an inherent limitation. You can segregate these two duties. That's what they say. Right? Even C transactions can and should be authorized because of the fact that the organized sales to customers on account without is an avoidable control weakness. Inherent weakness means it's there in the control itself. But even B is also avoidable in a sense, no? But just look at the theoretical aspect. The questions that you get won't be this crazy, but just to look at the answer. Inherent limitations comes from mistakes in judgment, misunderstanding of instructions, personal carelessness, distraction, fatigue, collusion, perpetration by management override kind of thing.
Answer 3, C is also then the organization sales customers on account without credit approval. Credit
Yeah.
approval is the control. So
Yeah. So there again, what they are saying is it is something that can be implemented going forward. So it's a little complicated question. Now, if you look at C, they are saying the fact that it's avoidable control weakness. That means you can tell, okay, from tomorrow, give credit approval. So that sense, some
credit approval itself is a control, no?
yeah. So without credit approval, they are giving now.
Yeah,
So
that
going
is
forward,
disregarding control, no? Carelessness and
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is also inherent.
Yeah, in a sense, yes. Inherent, if there is a, yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a crazy question. And to read very well. One payroll engagement objective is determined with segregation of duties is proper. Which of the following activities is incompatible? Signing and distributing payroll checks, no? Preparing attendance data and preparing the payroll. Yeah, that is pretty clear off. You can't prepare the attendance data and prepare the payroll, that is completely out. Preparing the payroll and fixing payroll tax forms. That seems okay. Generally, EPF, ETF, all are done by the person preparing the payroll. And of course, it's ruled before payment. Hiring employees and authorizing changes in pay rates. So that is done by HR, no, usually. Signing payroll checks and distributing payrolls is ideally that should be segregated. Ideally, yeah. But what happens is the person who signs and approves the payroll sometimes signs but of course finance or treasury will distribute in Sri Lanka. Of course, not the treasury, but HR department will tell how much to spend and then send the tax file to the bank, and the total amount finance will process. So signing and distributing payroll checks ideally should be segregated, but yeah, I think the more greater weakness is preparing attendance data and preparing the payroll. That is wrong. So generally, you have a biometric system where in and outs are marked, timekeeping is all automated, right? But if the person who prepares the payroll has access rights to the timekeeping machine and all that, he can add over time, he can do a lot of things and take out cash funds from the company. The receiving department receives copies of purchase orders for use in identifying and recording inventory. The purchase orders list the name of the vendor and the quantity of the material order. Possible error that the system could allow is payment to unauthorized vendors. Payment for unauthorized purchases. You get the PO. PO tells you from whom the stuff are coming, the items and the quantities, and based on that, you receive the items and GR in it. No? Possible error that the system could allow. What is the answer you have sent? C. For payment for partial deliveries. Why? To ensure a fair count, the copy of the purchase order sent to the receiving clerk should not include quantities. Okay. The receiving clerk should count the items in the shipment and prepare a receiving report. Copies are sent to inventory control and accounts payable. So what they're saying is when the lorry comes, not even to send a copy of the PU. But generally come to you not to send the quantities. Then they will really count the items. So if the PO says 30 laptops to be delivered and they send only 10, sometimes this guy might say, okay, 15 came in and then there might be overpayment for partial deliveries. So that problem is there when there are partial deliveries. But ideally, if you don't know the PO quantity, the other problem is someone has to check against the PO. You don't want to accept a higher quantity than the PO quantity. You counted there are 110 laptops, but you have ordered only 100. So that has to be quickly checked and the extra 10 should be sent back. tricky question. Not a good one. If internal control is well designed, two tasks that should be performed by different persons are approval of bad debt writer, reconciliation of the accounts, payable subsidiary controlling account. So one is debtor bad debt write-off, that is accounts receivable, and reconciliation of the accounts payable subsidiaries and controlling, and the creditor side. Seems okay. It can be done by the same person. It's not reconciling the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger with the accounts receivable control account payables. One, but you approve write-offs. Distribution of payroll checks and approval of sales returns for credit. They are again two different things, no, it looks like. Posting of
It's a
amounts from both the cash
D is
receipt.
there.
D, recording of cash receipts and preparation of bank reconciliation. Yeah, so that has to be segregated, no? Yes, correct. '71, in a well-designed internal control structure in which the cashier receives remittances from the mail room, the cashier should not endorse the checks, prepare the bank deposit slip, deposit remittances daily at a local bank, post the receipts to the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. What is the answer there? Cashier should not do what?
Cashier receive remittances from the mail.
Here's a good question. What is the answer here? Yes. It's D, no? That's what I also thought. Yes. So when you get a check, the cashier has to endorse it. Maybe put uh, account payee, or if name of the company, endorse it. On the reverse side, put the company account. If it's just if it's blank, put don't they accept cash checks. Must endorse. Prepare the bank deposit slip and depositing it also sometimes the cashier does. But the cashier can raise the receipt, but setting off of that receipt against the relevant customer invoice, that should be done by the separate department. Now in hotel audits, when we do, cashier puts a receipt, but it's a credit department. Sometimes that looks and sees, okay, this receipt has to be set off against this customer invoice. That is done separately because the customer has to send the setting off details. When they pay bulk amounts, they must say it's for these receipts. Otherwise, they'll just go on setting off receipts against different invoices and we create another problem. 76. The initiation of the purchase of materials and supplies would be the responsibility of the yeah, it's I suppose the inventory is like the storekeeper saying, now my reorder levels, stocks have gone down to reorder levels. I have to order, sort of thing. But inventory also is determined by production. No? So basically everything starts with sales. Sales tells this we have to sell this amount, we need these stocks. Then production says, okay, we to do this production, we need these raw materials. So it starts with sales, then production, then inventory, then purchasing. It goes in that order. So we'll do few more questions and then wrap it up. Okay, question number 81. And these are the questions that might come. You can see
D, no?
it's B or D, no?
D, yeah.
It's not material misstatement you can't get from a flow chart. Control environment effectiveness to get it's not from a flow chart. You have to test transactions and check documents. Flow charting won't show whether the control is actually working or not. So flow chart it helps to understand the system and identify weaknesses in the system. So the auditor should document the understanding of the entity and its environment and all that. So once you flow chart it, you understand the system. You can understand what controls are in place, right? Question number 82. The system flow chart is a horizontal flow chart. Horizontal flow chart. And the independent auditor sometimes uses systems flow chart, which can be best described as what? So answer you have put D. The symbolic representation of the flow of documents and procedures through a series of steps in the accounting process of the organization. Okay. Flow of instructions. No, A is wrong. Flow of instructions. We didn't learn about flow of instruction diagram that clearly indicates an internal reporting structure. The reporting structure is not the graphical flow of operations that is used to replace the internal auditor's control question and all. So the most sensible answer is D. And this rectangle is always the process, right? This at the bottom you have two. These are documents, payroll checks, printed payroll. These are documents, reports. And on the top you have three circles. No, at the top and on the two sides they are like magnetic tape symbols. Management controls. Shall we go through this question and close it for the day? Okay, fact pattern 85. And then we'll go through the balance next time on Thursday. The marketing department for a major retailer assigns separate product managers for each product line. Product managers are responsible for ordering products and determining retail pricing. Each product manager's purchasing budget is set by the marketing manager. Products are delivered to a central distribution center where goods are segregated for distribution to the company's 52 departmental stores. Because receipts are recorded at the distribution center, the company does not maintain a receiving function at each store. Product managers are evaluated on a combination of sales and gross profit generated from their product lines. Many products are seasonal, and individual store managers can require the seasonal products be removed to make space for the next season's products. Which of the following is a control deficiency in this situation? There is no receiving function at each individual store. Is that it? Yeah, that's what I also thought. You have a central distribution center where all the suppliers bring the stuff to. And from there, they send it to various outlets. So even the outlets must have a receiving function. No, otherwise that's a huge issue, right? So, okay, we'll go through this one. Which of the following would minimize defects in finished goods and cost goods caused by poor quality raw materials? Sorry. Go down. Which of the following would minimize defects in finished goods caused by poor quality raw materials? So it's a quality check of raw materials, no? Documented procedures for proper handling of work in progress, work in process inventory. No, not really. Required material specifications for all purchases. So when you're purchasing, you must say your raw materials should have these specifications. You can specify those, then the raw material that is sent would be to standard, no? To the standard required. Timely follow-up on all unfavorable usage variances. So having specifications for all purchases, that will be asked. All right, so we will have the last class on Thursday. Try and come. And with that, I think we've now had about 5 classes of questions. That will be useful to start studying. Huh? You have to do your exams within a month or two, otherwise the break is too long. You forget everything that you've learned. So do you all have any questions? You can ask me, or otherwise we can close it for the day. All right. Thank you very much. Today's Tuesday, so we'll meet again on Thursday at 6:30. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Good
Okay,
night.
thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.